Shabam. We are live. We're picking up audio. Yep. All right. Again, before we start
our podcast with blooper.
That was super hilarious.
That was pretty good.
All right. And we're back.
To our podcast without a name yet.
Without a name. I've gotten a few messages that people just like the Auto Tech Guys podcast.
Well, we can stick with that. I mean,
but we do have one quick message again, and this is on behalf of all our fellow General Motors technicians that have been listening in. And the message is short and simple. Techline Connect, you. All right. Let's move on. Yeah, so we both read it. Today, we're gonna bring ourselves down a notch and everyone else in the shop and talk about all the dumb mistakes we make and screw ups. A couple good stories. We got a couple good sent-in stories, and yeah, I think we're probably just going to try and focus on laughing, telling a couple good stories, and possibly having a good time. And then take a break because it's been a long week. It's been a great week since everyone tuned in last time. Numbers are picking up crazy. We're happy. So now we're gonna bring ourselves down a peg and then get back into our other topics we want to talk about.
Cody got a haircut.
I got a haircut. He didn't. All right, start off. We had a dumbass in our shop a couple days ago. Was pulling out a 6-speed out of a Tahoe and dropped it on the ground. Shattered it. Guy's such a dumbass.
That was you.
I was really hoping you would
one time
off that
I don't strap it down.
I was pulling it out to tear it down. I figured I'd just lower it on the ground or lower it down, move it over to the table. And I don't know why they put the stupidest little tiny wheels on the damn thing. And I caught a rock and it went, it even had the little arm thingies to go around the pan. I don't ask. But yeah, shattered in a lot of pieces. I got a picture. I'm going to go insert picture now when I edit this. So yeah, that was pretty good. Ian has gotten really good at pulling torque tubes out the last couple weeks of Corvettes. You're on what, pull number 3?
Yep, third time's a charm.
No, at least it's his own car with aftermarket modification problems. So,
well, the one time was my mess up because I did not. Yeah, I blew out the slave. That was really cool.
What was it? $600 cool?
5.
Yeah, mechanics. So we got a list of a few kind of stories and topics we wanted to do. Maybe we can go back and forth, do a couple of stories. Yeah. We'll read the one that was sent in towards the end. It's pretty good. I was going to try and read it as we were filming and get a live reaction, but I couldn't help myself when he sent it to me, and it was pretty good. Tap story.
Story.
We have a tech that used to work here. Wink. Can't wink. And he broke a bolt off inside a Equinox Traverse, whatever.
The carrier bearing
for the carrying for the driveline.
Yeah.
And he went to drill and tap it out and broke the tap off inside, like happens. And so solution was, I think it was a warranty job too. Solution was to put it up in place and weld a nut to the end of the tap, holding it in place.
I think it was meant as a joke because somebody told him to do that.
And
but he took it too seriously.
It was pretty good.
Yeah, would not recommend.
So that instead of Hopefully that was part of the
That was
amount.
the amount.
If you didn't notice, the camera's fallen off our fancy mount twice now. So,
It's kind of a dollar store thing.
yeah, okay. So now we're back.
So we just did a tap story.
Tab story was good, and that was more of a, I would say more of a hack story than a fail story, because that was pretty hacky, and I don't think anyone else has done anything like that here. But it happens. We had a new apprentice at the time. I can't remember what the hell they were doing on this newer Tahoe. Something involving the starter being removed. And this apprentice, he instead of putting the positive back on the starter, he mounted it to the ground stud on the body that's behind the passenger side fender well. He just melted all kinds of shit when they hooked the battery back up. You guys want a good time in the shop and some fried modules, try that one out because it was pretty good. What kind of dumb shit did you do as an apprentice?
I decided to try and duct tape a turbo drain pipe back together
On a cruise?
on a cruise. I don't know what I was thinking, but I think probably what was going through my head is I was struggling so much with, at the time I was breaking things all the time, just stupid little plastic things, and I think I just didn't want my trainer to know, so I kind of tried to just hush it. Turns out it's like a $7 drain
It's
tube.
like $7. That was the funniest day.
And I think on that same car I actually broke the bypass valve on the turbo, which was like $300.
That's right.
And didn't replace a turbo drain pipe. So I don't know what was.
I think maybe you broke the one and then you got to the next thing and you're like, not a,
Yeah.
another part. But I remember when that thing came back puking oil, and I don't remember where you were when we found it, but I know
I was
like
still here.
I know you were here, but I think you weren't like aware of the situation until we found the duct tape, and it was like, what the
Yeah.
You also learned as an apprentice what check balls are in a transmission.
Yes. That was pretty funny. I think we mentioned that already in the first one, I thought.
Maybe we possibly did, but yeah,
rebuilt a whole Traverse transmission, new valve body and everything. Had to piece the valve body together. I guess I missed that part of the procedure where check balls go in, and somebody asked me because it wouldn't move at all after I put it back together. And he's like, "Did you put the check balls in the valve body?" And I was like, "I don't know. What? I thought they were messing with me. Thought it was like a." It's like a, what am I thinking of? Oh, like blinker fluid. I thought he was messing with me like some stupid blinker fluid type thing, but the more you learn.
A crazy shop story of something that's happened in a shop I worked at. Not this one, but when I was an apprentice, it was about mid-afternoon. We were headed out to smoke break. And I remember very well because we had a guy, kind of our lead tech in the shop, named Ryan. Every time it was time for smoke, he kind of gave like a whistle and was like, psst, and then everybody in the shop smoked back then. And we all went out. We had a little spot out back. We were all out smoking. We were sitting out back and we were looking towards where like all our PDIs go inside our lot. And there was a cop car back there pointing at like our gate coming in. There was only like 2 entrances into the whole dealership. And we were kind of like, that's kind of fucking weird. So we called our manager and he came out and he walked all the way down there to the cop and talked for a minute, and he came back and we're like, what did he say? And he said, hang tight. We'll find out soon. Not even 2 minutes later, swarmed. Dudes on SUVs hanging on, SWAT gear, FBI looking dudes, just a gang of them. Just rolled in. We all get thrown to the ground. Everyone's freaking being just all detained. Fucking chaos. A couple minutes later, they bring our detailer. We only had one out at the time in handcuffs, and walk them out. They get us all up. Head dude goes into the service manager's office, talking with them a while. Well, it turns out our detailer robbed a bank that morning, before he came to work with no mask on and wearing his work uniform. Dude, it was the craziest thing that's ever happened to me at a dealership. They came back the next day again and were just blowing up the whole detail area looking for the gun because I guess they couldn't find it, but they found it in the shop. Turns out to be like a pellet handgun. But the crazy thing is they told our manager that the reason everything was so crazy, so extreme, was he actually set some sort of record for one of the highest amounts taken during a over-the-counter robbery. Because I guess he went to like each teller, not just the one, and just went and left. He was like, next, next, next. And he's just like, hey, by the way, I work here, so you'll find me there later.
30 minutes or less. Stick to the tellers.
Yeah, it was crazy. We've had good lube tech fails here. Our lube techs like to put vehicles in reverse and jump out of them. We had one lube tech, as the story goes. He was hopping in a Colorado, put it in reverse to back it up, hit our automatic doors, which, we're in a new shop. So, big glass panel, fancy doors and lube bay, big expensive ones. And as it was opening, he put it in reverse and he was waiting for it to open. And he was like, oh, I forgot the lube sticker, and jumped out of it. And that thing went, wham, through a $20,000 door and into a truck that was waiting to be picked up. Freaking glass everywhere. The door, like the whole frame of it, like bent out and like ground all the way against the building as it came up. And our service manager at the time, he was like over there, and everyone was gathered around, and he was like, what the fuck? And I walked up to him and I was like, well, at least no one got hurt. That was not what he wanted to hear. That was good.
Bubbles.
Yeah, well, you're not supposed to say the name.
That's just a nickname.
Yeah, it's a work nickname. But
we had a porter who was pulling a low cab forward into our lube bay, and our lube bay has two sets of doors, 3 on each side, and they oppose each other. So there was truck racked on one all the way up, and there was like 2 or 3 people under. There was tech over there, a couple lube techs, and this porter comes through in a low cab forward and pulling it over our other, because they're in-ground racks, pulling it over, and goes to hit the brake to stop. Doesn't hit the brake, hits the gas, and goes and plows into this truck that's on the rack, pushes it back like probably like a foot, and almost knocks it off and drops it on the people underneath.
Didn't, luckily.
Damaged the windshield pretty bad on the low cab forward.
I get bent the top of the cab up a little bit. Scared the shit out of that porter.
Yeah, and then he ended up getting fired. But we had to get a whole bunch of pole jacks and everything to get that truck safely down. It
dropped it off of the rack, off the arms on the mounts, but it was still being held up with luckily nothing being damaged. But we had to get all kinds of pole jacks.
The flip up parts on the rack on those ones.
Yeah.
And it like folded one side down. Yeah. And I think it rocked back and fell.
Yeah.
We did have a loop tech that drop a big van off a rack over there one time too.
Oh, but it like landed just like perfectly
on the bumper.
Like on the bumper, and it had a big giant steel bumper. It was like kind of like a little taco truck, but smaller. And it went boom, and it was like this. And then they just lowered it down, and it was completely fine. I think some of the stuff in the back kind of like shifted, but we here haven't had almost any trucks fall off the racks yet. No. Like a real like
that one
YouTube
was
moment one
5 years ago.
It was a long time
since.
But we haven't had one of those cool ones that just like everyone's seen that Corvette one that was going around.
Oh yeah.
And that dude was just like, peace, I quit.
Pulled the engine out.
Yeah, we haven't had anything cool like that yet. You know, we've had our fair share of fuck bay doors, and none of them have been like, you know, at least too drastic. Um, we did. We have move on a little bit. We might come back to lube, but we've had our fair share of porter issues, which, if you don't know, they're the guys that work up in the service drive that basically park all the cars, check the alignment, blah blah blah, park the cars, bring us the keys wherever it's going. And we had a string for a while of, we were pretty busy, so after we would like finish something, and if it was something that like a check engine light set after like 20 miles or something, our, you know, our management would have like a porter go drive it. They'd say, go put 20 miles on it, let us know what happens. And we had this huge string of, it's all good, 20 miles, all good. We're like, oh, sick. And then the customer comes, pays, or warranty picks it up, and they make it half a block away to get on the freeway. Light comes back on. And we had a long time of like, what the
It was a good few weeks.
fuck? Like, we were like, what the fuck? So our foreman one day had a good idea to have one happening, count miles to see if like maybe they were actually driving them. Because we're like, what the like, it was happening to everyone. And they caught our porter, at one of our porters at the time, the one that they had do it mostly. He was driving right next door. We have a Sam's Club. He was driving right next door, and he was taking naps like in the middle of the parking lot. You park it in there, and he was taking naps for like an hour and then just driving it right back, saying it was done. Dude, it was so funny. We've had violent porters with like short tempers who have tried to
And screws loose.
yeah, screws loose, have tried to, you know,
Fight techs
for saying their name. One that liked to throw sandwiches at techs. Riders make mistakes. We have a super awesome epic rider up front that has had a tendency to quote pretty good jobs and sell them like butter, because this rider's like pretty good, but forgets to quote like labor. So they're like, $2,000 for all of that? Hell yeah. And then they come and pick it up and they're like, all right, that's $4,600. And they're like, no, I have my quote. You gave me $2,000. It's happened a few times and it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Service writer stories daily are fails for a select few, but half the time we're reading it and we're like, what the that doesn't make any sense. And then you ask them and they're like, oh, the check engine light's on. You're like, what is this? You know,
what I really like is when, you know, they write up the ticket, and then at the end they put something like could be related.
It's it
with like a code in there.
Customer states loud noise over bumps. Shocks? Question mark. You're like, it could be, you know. Yeah. I had one today that was pretty good, and I went to go bring it up, and I forgot what the heck it said. Wait, continue with the story while I brainstorming about that one.
Oh, services. Yeah, I've messed up, and you know, I got 2 trucks that look identical, 2 tags that are, you know, get a little dyslexia, and the numbers in my brain switch because there's only a couple numbers different. I pull in the wrong truck. I'm looking it over for a concern. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with this truck. Everything looks fine. Everything's great. There's not even codes in it for what they're complaining about or what their concern is. And they, you know, there's like a coolant flush and some services on it. So I look it all over, start do the services on it, and tell the rider, hey, it's all good. There's nothing wrong with it. Then he comes back like 10 minutes later. He's like, this is not the right truck. And I'm like, what? And I a couple Silverados that I
wasn't
switched around.
wasn't that the day that you finished? You got them switched, and then you fixed the one you messed up on, and then you just clocked the out, and you left and didn't tell anyone. And you, Preston was like, he was so mad over those trucks he messed up, and I was like, yeah, he must have been pissed because he left. They're like, what? He left? He had like 3 waiters, and then we had to do them. That was pretty
I did
funny.
do that. That was that day.
Yeah, same day. We've,
I think we've all left in anger at one point.
I've had my fair share of anger issues. I've blown the up out in the shop. And him.
Yeah,
we broke up for like 6 months.
Yeah.
Was it that long?
No, it was
4 months.
It was like 2.
God, it felt like forever.
I didn't speak a word to you for like a month at least.
I've done it to our manager, but I've grown since then. What was that, like 4 months ago I blew up on you?
Gotten in a fight with a writer one time because I was sick of all the work he wrote up.
We have
and
some writers
got PDIs.
That
really fired him up.
We have some writers, they might be good, but they are like a magnet for everything that we don't want.
Yeah.
They're like, they have like a sixth sense. They're like, this is going to be the crappiest electrical diag you have ever seen.
Black radio screens all day.
Yeah. They just know. They could tell, like, if a customer pulls into the drive and they're not like bobbing their head, they're like, his radio's messed up.
I'm running issue.
Most bus, that it's a circle, a couple people who messaged me or commented, kind of wanted to know some of like our like our comeback situations. And here, at least in my experience, we don't really have a ton of comebacks here, like, at all, because like it might be kind of similar to what you guys are talking about, but I have these things that I call something else's. It's kind of a weird name, but typically after I do a repair and it comes right back, it's usually something else that is always unrelated to the work I just did. Always.
Fix it right first.
Even if the code is the same, that code set for something that was not related to what I did before. If it was let's take it down to basic terms. If it was a 420 and I was like, you know what, it's a bad O2 sensor, but it really needed a cat. No, the O2 sensor was bad. And when I fixed it, then I replaced the cat, which was failed after. It just failed after. It was just a coincidence. That's what we have.
Indirect injector. Diesel.
Yeah, we don't have comebacks here. We're all about the fix it right the first time. We don't make mistakes like that. We may screw things up, but if it leaves the building, it's fixed right every time. Just kidding. It's not. We have comebacks.
Some people have a lot.
Some people have a lot. Some people, have none. We got a lot of really good tedious techs here. A lot of experience. But I tell you one thing, at least the group that we have, I don't think anyone here has made the same mistake twice. You break something, pulling something out one way, you drop a transmission on the ground. I can promise you that won't happen again. It's getting strapped down every time from now on. I like to think that a lot of us learn from like going down the wrong path on an electrical diag, stuff like that. But generally the same mistake doesn't happen twice, and everyone has comebacks, especially with GM diagnostics. It is real easy to read one line wrong and go down this path, and everything, once you get on the wrong path, everything is testing good, and then at the end it says replace ECM, and you're like, okay,
it doesn't really make sense, but
you're like, sure, but if you missed one little thing, and that would have, like, you would have tested something different and shown an open between A and B. Shit happens. Everyone has comebacks, and if there's any managers listening, you really can't be too hard on your guys on comebacks. Our shop is real good about, learning from mistakes. and understanding that this back here is complicated and hard, and we have to have a lot of knowledge, and there's a lot of stuff we don't know because we've spent a lot of time focusing on these areas, and then one day you get something in that area down here. And how many times nowadays in your shops do you get a situation or something that's wrong on one of these newer vehicles, and you ask everybody and they're like, haven't worked on one of those systems yet, you're the first guy, and you know nothing about it other than the 45-minute PowerPoint that GM gave us last January. So a ton of it is trial by fire, you know.
Yeah.
I got into it with TAC, which is our GM assistants if you're not GM, because I had a diagnosis on a what the heck was it? The one I lost it on TAC the other day.
Was it the Escalade? Well, that was a programming issue, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a programming issue. It took me 4 hours to program one module because I don't know. I'm not good with computers.
No, Techline just sucks.
Yeah, well, yeah, and Techline sucks. But it was a diag that I did the other day, and it totally led me down the wrong path.
Wasn't your trans one the?
No, I'm because I'm still working on that one with TAC.
I don't know.
The one I left him that huge shitty story on. It was a service brake system light on the dash,
yeah,
on a half ton, and the code, the diag was this long for that specific code, and the code description made it sound like it could be related to something, but the diag, it was literally try the park brake relearn procedure. If it fails and code returns, replace brake system control module. That's it. There's nothing else to test for that code it had. Replace the module, code comes right back. And after Techline not working right and taking 5 hours just to get the new module programmed, and so then finally get it programmed, code comes right back, get on with TAC, doing the whole thing, and they're like, oh, seems like every case we've had with that code, it needs a park brake actuator. Like, I'm looking right at the diag, and there is nothing related to testing or replacing the park brake actuator for this code. So it's like they led me down the wrong path and wasted so much time. You know, I guess I could have, and just started throwing parts at it, but then you want to be sure sometime, a lot of the times, and yeah, it becomes a headache. So that's a TAC fail, Techline fail, Tech fail, Loop Tech fail, Porter fail. What's a fail our manager has done? He doesn't wear suits. I don't know what your guys' manager wears, but our wears polo shirts and orange shoes. Granted, he hasn't worn the orange shoes in a while. I think we bullied him out of it. But man, you think a manager, you think they would wear a suit and tie regardless of outside temp, to look the part. But I guess he doesn't like, looking like he belongs. But that's just me.
Did you go over this one?
I can honestly tell you, I don't know what that says.
It says cam, right?
Maybe.
I don't know why there's a line there.
Maybe it's referring to, so a big fail I had years ago is
Oh, no, I know what that one is. That was the apprentice that on a Ecotech.
Oh, yeah. So we did have an apprentice. He did cams on an Ecotech and didn't get the cam gear actuator lined up
With the dowel.
Yeah. And torqued that bitch down,
Started it.
Boom. Granted, I've done that, but not on the dowel. When my very first job after my apprenticeship was doing a head on a inline Colorado, or I guess I was at GMC at the time, so it'd be a Canyon.
Yeah.
And I didn't torque the bolt down for the exhaust cam. I totally spaced it, and it ran perfect for about 45 seconds, and then it started slipping on it, and then it destroyed the dowel, destroyed the cam, but luckily the cam wasn't too expensive, and I was able to swap it pretty quick, even though
Didn't bend valves.
no, yeah, it didn't do anything. It was real lucky on that one.
Our apprentice did. I think he bent a whole bunch of valves.
I had my longest car I've ever had here at one time with a single RO number. I swear it was about 8 months. I had a diesel Cruise, came in for a coolant leak, pull it in. Obviously, it needs a water pump. Shine the flashlight down there. Yep, water pump's leaking. It's junk. Order parts. That time they were back ordered. 2 weeks later, I'm pulling it back in to do the water pump. Right when I'm about to shut it off in my stall, the timing belt snapped and grenaded the head. Bent the valves, cracked all the rocker arms in half. So I tore it down, ordered a head. We got the head in, the valves, we rebuilt the head, got all new rocker arms, got everything we needed. As I think, were you still Lube at the time?
Yeah, I came over.
He was over and just helping me work on it. And we noticed that one of the camshafts had a big gouge in it from one of the rocker arms snapping. I was like, shit. So we ordered a new camshaft for it. And after waiting for the camshaft for 2 more months, they said, oh, hey, you can't get camshafts. You're going to need an engine. So then 3 months later, an engine finally showed up. And it was just a never-ending process for that car.
Yeah.
But we're obviously going to think of a lot more fail stories, a lot more screw-ups. A lot of you can send some more in. I'm going to read the one that was sent in to us today to kind of wrap it up. But if we want, we can get back to the subjects we want. People can still message me and send me some of the topics, and we can elaborate more on them, because I have had some people say we could have went deeper. Send me stuff that's happening in your shop that you don't like, that's negative, and we can ask around our shop or even our manager, because he's been open to talking about all the stuff we're talking about. And I can be like, well, they're having this situation. We have it also, or we don't. So why don't we? And then we can relay that back to everybody. I think that'd be kind of a good way to go. And we're just working on and bringing more content, more entertainment. So I'm thinking, a lot of people said they want us to get them hooked a lot faster. So we'll probably start getting into it. We can either get into it with like a weekly update of like how things are going for us, then get into the topic. People could send in stupid stuff, funny stuff, or if we have funny stuff, we can wrap with that to have people look forward to the end and then have a good laugh before we wrap up, stuff like that. So this final one, I won't put his name in at the moment, because I didn't ask for. I was gonna send him and see if I could use his name or his shop or anything, but he said I forgot to send it. So he sent in that they had a tech at their shop doing an exhaust system on a XT5 Cadillac, and it seems like it was under warranty, and they require it to be sent back, but because it's basically one big giant piece, you have to cut it up in pieces and box it up and send it back. Well, their tech at their shop took the old one out, cut the new one up to be sent back, and then realized that he cut up the wrong exhaust. And I can't imagine how much that was. Probably over a little over $1,000 or more.
That stuff's expensive.
Gets expensive.
Yeah. Especially warranty.
And then he sent me pictures. So apparently they had a picture on his Facebook of him holding a couple of guns, and the techs at the shop edited it out and put sawzalls in his hands, and I guess hung it all over the the shop, like the bathrooms and stuff, and I guess they're still hanging up today. And also, if you know that guy, if you're the one who listened and you know that guy, he's got Facebook pictures of him holding guns. You need to tell that guy to watch his trigger fingers, because he's got his fingers on the triggers.
Yep.
Gun safety. Don't ruin it for the rest of us. You know what I'm saying? Anything you want to wrap up on?
I can't think of anything else right off the top of my head.
Okay, we're gonna wrap it up today, and let's just everyone send us input for the next one. We'll take a tally of everything that everyone wants us to talk about, even a subject we already talked about, come back to. But we need to hit service riders really good about. I've had a couple that said, let's talk to service riders about what we expect from them and what they expect from us, and see what mix-ups we're getting. So we need to hit a few topics, and we're looking forward to it. But we just needed a good laugh week. Just trying to remember all these stories earlier. We were just having good laughs, a good time, so we figured it would be a good week for that. So,
yep.
Out.